today. Everybody's been asking me for the last few weeks really, well, a year ago, all these changes that they put on us. They put them on y'all. We're responsible for letting everybody know and then enforcing all these changes. So we got a lot of hunters in here, I'm sure. I need to get that out of the way first. The state, I can say, probably does need to make up their mind on the game check system. Anybody that hunts deer, this year is the first year they started out requiring everybody, if you hunt a deer in Alabama, you shoot a deer in Alabama, you're required to write it down, including your does, and then within 24 hours, you're supposed to get a confirmation number. Well, when they started all that, trying to implement that, they got a lot of phone calls and a lot of people calling their representatives fussing about it, saying there's no way we're going to do that, it's just not doable. And so then they went to 72 hours. So now you don't have to do it, it's voluntary. So this goes to show you, if you fuss long enough, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So, but what they asked us before they tried to implement all this, and we told them, you know, we're not for that, but you tell us to do it, we're going to enforce the law, we don't agree with it. You know, I've done this 12 years, and they call us in a room about once a year and ask our advice, and I have no idea why they do that, because they never take it. So we're out there rubbing shoulders with all the hunters and all the fishermen, and we hunt and fish ourselves, and for the life of me, while they ask us, they don't take our advice. So, and there's a lot of things that's come up that some people like, and some people are very hot about. And I guess since I'm on deer hunting, I'll go ahead and get those out of the way, because there may be some deer hunters in here. First of all, you don't have to call in all your deer on the confirmation system. That's done away with. As of this year, it is a volunteer system. Number two, you do still have to write down your bucks. When you buy a license, or if you're under 16 or over 65, if you're 8 years old, you're still required to carry that buck confirmation piece of paperwork. You can get it in this book here. And I apologize, I didn't bring any today because the state kind of didn't make enough of them this year. So we gave them all out, and Walmart's still crying, wanting a bunch of them. And Macon get some there, but we don't have any right now. But you can go to outdooralabama.com and print that buck confirmation. I think I have a picture of it. That's basically it on the bottom here. And anybody before league is welcome to look at it. Any of you new hunters need to know you got to have that on your person to keep up with the 3 legal bucks that you kill. So not supposed to kill over 3 bucks. So, you know, how do we enforce that? Once again, we wanted them to go to an actual tagging system. They elected not to do that. So didn't take our advice. We're just going to enforce it the best way we can. Also, the big issue that we're having this year that people are still calling us about is the baiting law. It's still illegal to hunt deer over bait in the state of Alabama. You can do it this year. What has changed, you can put it out and hunt 100 yards out of sight, which basically means you better not be able to see it. A lot of game wardens are telling me, hey, I'm going to just start writing tickets. Well, you know, what you've got to realize when you start writing people tickets, you may have to go to court, and that's a lot of court time for me. So if they're not looking right at it, I'm not going to write it. But I am telling you that the law says it's got to be 100 yards out of sight, or you can get ticketed for that. That's a big issue that a lot of hunters, some hunters don't agree with it. They don't want the bait to be legalized. I can tell you, I've done it 12 years, it's coming. I mean, every year they get pressure put on them by, you know, there's several names that put pressure on our legislatures to change the laws, and every year something changes. And so right now baiting is still illegal. They're calling it, they have several different names for what they call it. It's 100 yards out of sight supplemental feeding areas. You can't see it 100 yards out of sight. So just make sure you do that. Some of the other things that they have come out with for hunting it, well, fishing, very few changes. Obviously, we know that our deer season this year comes in November 23rd. That's for the gun deer season. A week before that, you will have, the weekend before that, you'll have a youth hunt, and also the primitive black powder weapon will come into play a week before that. So you need to, if you're going to hunt, you need to know about those 2 changes, because they can get you in some trouble. The other thing people are calling me about is, hey, are we going to be able to hunt through February? That is a new law that passed this year. It's also in this book on page 22, but it only covers the southwestern corner of the state of Alabama, where they're going to get 10 days in February to hunt. So you might want to check that out if you're going to go hunt. You can't do it in Houston County. January 31st is the last legal day of deer hunting in Houston County. They did get 10 days in the southwest corner. once again, maybe politics comes into play. I've been doing this for 12 years, and it seems like every time something gets added, it's that southwest corner. I don't know what the pool is down there, but they got some pool. As far as dove season, maybe some dove hunters in here. It's different this year. We've got like 3 splits, and it's confusing some people. I've already wrote some people for hunting out of season. They'll be out there just blasting away, and I pull up, what are you doing? I'm dove hunting. It's not season. It's kind of confusing. You better read your book. So, you can't be ignorant to the law. You got to know it. So, but I will agree, it is confusing when they change it every year. We actually had a meeting about that, and we told them, as far as you dove hunters in here, we wanted them to go to whatever the north zone was and just keep one season for the whole state. That didn't go over, it didn't happen. So it was just kind of a common sense thing for us. But hey, we're the ones out there working it. Right now, what you have in season, obviously, we don't have a whole lot of small game hunters anymore, and I wish we did. We think the state should do a better job at pushing the small game hunting, but everybody in here knows that the dollar is king, and what we make a lot of money on is promoting a whitetail deer. Whether it's local companies that's selling feed, or whether it's game hunts throughout our state-owned lands, whitetail buck is a cash crop, I should say. Although they should do it better. I'm 45 years old. I grew up small game hunting. I think a lot of young people don't know what they're missing. So, and I even told the state, hey, if you want to push some of these programs, I'll be glad to do it. We were raised up with squirrel dogs and rabbit dogs and quail dogs, and that's what we did. It was a family affair. A lot of young folks, you go sit in a deer stand and you shoot a deer, that kind of takes away from some of that family time, and everybody was together and everybody cooked afterwards. So I just feel like the state of Alabama needs to do a better job. They are looking into that, but when they start advertising and they start pushing for non-residents to come to Alabama, they're going to push whitetail deer hunting. That's a lot of money to be made, and we need it to survive like any southern state. So we want non-residents to come hunt here. When all that changed a few years ago, when the license went up, we did have a drop. They were just trying to say, hey, we're not coming because you raised the license. But we haven't had a license fee rate change since '86. But any change that you do is going to make hunters mad. I'm learning that. So it don't matter what it is. So remember, you deer hunters in here, I keep beating this dead horse. On page 30, hunting over bait is illegal, okay? So we don't want to hear it when you get a ticket because it's still illegal. And I told somebody earlier, it's a lot of common sense when you're writing people tickets. You can go out there and write everybody for everything. There's going to be some game wardens that's going to do it different than me. I mean, the law is the law. Me, everybody I catch on bait is looking right at it. So it's simple, cut and dry. I don't want to have to go to court and fight them because some of them going to go fight you. So for us, the big thing we like to work in this area, and believe it or not, a lot of it still goes on, is night hunting. That's what we work. I would say most of my hours goes into working night hunting because people still do it. Last year, one of my last cases, we had 2 guys pull up in downtown Cottonwood and shoot an 8-point buck, a 9-point with a drop time, while church was in session in the city limits. And I just happened to be there. So it was a good one. But in our county, we do have a good court system, good DAs that back us, where I think the fines were $5,000 a piece. They went to jail, had to bond out. We kept their weapons, and if they didn't show up for court and pay that, we were going to condemn their vehicle. And so they did show up and pay. But if they're going to choose to shoot deer at night, number one, it's dangerous. They shot the warehouses. Number 2, it's illegal to shoot from road and motor vehicle. Hey, we're going to do everything we can to prosecute. So that's the big things that me and my partner, a lot of game wardens like to work night hunting. It still goes on. I'm actually assigned to Houston County, but since the Geneva County game warden in 41 years retired, there's only one down there, so I get to work Geneva County too. So I got a lot on my plate, but hey, it's what I like to do. We work for wildlife. You do this job for that reason. They don't have a voice, so somebody's got to go out there and do it. Believe it or not, there are people that will shoot everything that moves, and they don't care what you think. And I would say 90% of the people that we deal with are honest, hard-working people. Even the ones you write tickets to, they'll speak to you sometime the next time they see you. There's always that 10% they're going to break the law no matter what. And I guess that's kind of why we out there. But the major changes that have occurred this year within our department is the mandatory game check system went away. So just know that. February deer season was extended only in the southwest corner. It's kind of like a trial. They're going to try and see how it works out. So believe me, I've already been in enough meetings since this went on where there's a lot of mad hunters over here in Houston County wondering why they didn't get it. And it's probably coming. But We have a new director as of the last 2 years. He is a young guy, he's 42. He has his own business, but he's also a biologist. And what I'm learning about biologists, they're numbers guys. So that's why a lot of this has been implemented. They want to know how many deer is being killed in Alabama. Will they ever be able to do it? I don't know. I mean, you all of us sitting in here know that there's going to be people that's not going to write anything down, and they don't want you to know anything they've done is none of your business. Well, the state of Alabama looks at it opposite. They view like, hey, the deer in this state belong to the state of Alabama, and we want to know. And when you got a biologist that's a director, they're numbers guys. That's why all this stuff's being implemented. Hey, do I agree with it? I agree with a lot of it. I don't agree with all of it, but I follow orders, and I work for the governor on down, and you just do what you're told. So that's why that came about. The mandatory game check caught a lot of flack, so that's done away with. Another thing that some of the young hunters might need to know, the online hunter education certification is now available online. You used to have to go to a traditional class, which was 2 Saturdays, and it seemed like 3 days when you're in there because I had to teach it. And now it's went to, you can take the class online and then go to a field day for local volunteers to help us out. And now, this year, they've implemented, you can actually go online and do the whole thing. It's probably, we're behind the times a little bit, some other southern states, but hey, it's Alabama and we're finally there. There's a lot of changes. It's on page 32 if you get this book. I'm not going to go over all of them because they don't really affect us. It's actually revised legal arms, believe it or not, deer hunters for allow air rifles. There's some air rifles now that are so powerful they can kill a deer. And so they put that into the regulation this year. And it's legal. The other major changes that really don't apply to this area. So fishing license, all of them pretty much stayed the same. Our license fees, everything except for those big issues that I talked about is going to stay the same. So I know I'm limited on time, but I'm going to allow for any questions if anybody has any and try to answer it to the best of my ability. Any game and fish questions or anything else?